You don't want to miss this next video. Riley Gaines shares her story about the day when she was competing in the swim meet and Lia Thomas was in the locker room undressing in front of all the girls. Have a listen.
Just tell us about your experience, because nobody can question your experience. I don't think anybody sitting at the table, and certainly nobody at this podium, has had the experience that you have had. You were talking about just the incredible surprise, shall I say, to put it gently, of finding a biological man, a 6'4" biological man in your locker room, and having to accept that without being asked about it, without being told about it even. What was that like for you? Tell us about that.
Again, we only became aware we would be undressing next to a man was when we had to see a man undressing while we were simultaneously undressing. And so I immediately left the locker room and I went up to one of the officials on the pool deck and I said, what are the guidelines to allow a man into our locker room? I know the guidelines for the competition, but what are the guidelines for the locker room? And he so nonchalantly said back, oh, we actually got around this by making locker rooms unisex. And so I'm thinking to myself in these brief moments, first and foremost, you just admitted this is a male by acknowledging how you had to change your rules to make the locker rooms unisex. You acknowledge that we do not share the same sex, first and foremost. Secondly, unisex. Any man could have walked into our locker room, any coach, any official, any man who wanted to would have had full reins to, and bare minimum, we weren't forewarned about it. And that's the traumatizing part. Of course, the experience in and of the locker room itself is traumatizing, but I think for me, it was so easy for them to dismiss our rights to privacy. Senator Durbin, in your opening statement, you had mentioned this rhetoric. It's, you had mentioned that, what message does it send to trans individuals? And my combat to that is, what message does this send to women, to young girls who are denied of these opportunities? So easily their rights to privacy and safety thrown out of the window to protect a small population, protect one group as long as they're happy. What about us? That is the overall general consensus of how we all felt in that locker room.
Why do you think it is that the NCAA and so many people in power seem intent on just erasing your opinion, your views, the whole category of women? I noticed that recently you just posted this to social media about a message that Harvard was sending around, I think, to its swimmers, telling them, don't talk about Lia Thomas, don't share your opinions. If you get contacted by a member of the media, then refer that to the university. Don't say anything, for heaven's sake. Tell us about this. I mean, this has been your experience over and over and over. You're told as a woman to shut up, don't say anything. What's that like?
That is continually happening. And if we do speak up, you're immediately labeled as some name. They will call you everything under the sun, whether it's transphobic, homophobic, racist, white supremacist, domestic terrorist. They will throw them all at you in hopes to deter you, in hopes to silence you. Lia Thomas's teammates, they were forced every single week to go to mandatory LGBTQ education meetings to learn about how just by being cisgender, they were oppressing Lia Thomas. They were told that they're not allowed to take a stance because their school has already taken their stance for them. They were told that you will never get a job, you will never get into grad school, you will lose your friends, you will lose your scholarship and playing time if you speak out. They told these girls that if you do speak out, and any harm whatsoever comes towards Thomas's way, whether that's through social media, whether that's physical, mental, emotional harm, then you are solely responsible, and you could be responsible for a potential death. And you don't want that, do you? Of course not. Who would ever want to be responsible in a potential death? But that is the emotional blackmail that is plaguing this country, especially in universities.
As I'm listening to this video, as someone who is a woman myself, but also who has a daughter, a parent, I wonder, the people who decided to allow men to compete in women's sports, allow men to get undressed in women's locker rooms and use women's bathroom, those people who wrote those policies, were there any women involved? And if there were any women involved, did they have daughters? I mean, it blows my mind that we're here today. Like, that it was so important to rush the opportunity for men to compete in sports, to rush it, to just let it happen, that they didn't even bother to take into consideration how women would be feeling, or even the sense that for how many years have we been fighting to have all the rights to do and be a part of the things we are in our world, in our country. And now they just slowly are just taking it away without even considering how women are going to feel. I don't understand. Like, it doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense that it's okay to do that. And Riley was just, and sharing her story, she does not hold back. And I'm glad that she kind of called out that guy for saying, what kind of message does this send to LGBTQ people, versus she's like, what kind of message does it send to the little girls who are trying to compete? I mean, they don't even give them a heads up that this is going to happen. Not that that would have made it better, but I mean, it's just disrespectful to not even care about the majority in this situation. They're just focused and caring about the minority, and that is not right.